Hello, curious minds. Welcome to this intellectual journey. Have you ever felt drawn to the same patterns in your life? Or had a dream so vivid and strange it seemed to come from somewhere else? What if those patterns weren't random? What if they were echoes of an ancient human memory we all share? We live in an age obsessed with identity, but what truly defines who you are? Your job? Your memories? Your fears? Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung proposed that we are much more than our personal biography. He suggested that within each of us lies a vast ocean of collective wisdom, a map of the human soul. Today we're going to explore the fascinating and at times mystical world of Carl Jung. We'll leave the surface of consciousness behind and dive into the depths of the psyche. We'll talk about the collective unconscious, the figures that inhabit it, the archetypes, and the most important journey of all, the process of individuation. Before we begin, a quick note. To bring this narration to life, I've used artificial intelligence tools to generate the images you see. Think of them as a canvas, a way to illustrate the ideas and atmosphere of our story. They won't always be literal representations, but rather visual companions to help your imagination take flight with me. I sincerely hope you enjoy it. To understand Jung, we first need to understand where he came from. Born in Switzerland in 1875, Carl Jung wasn't just a psychologist, he was an explorer. He grew up surrounded by religion and spirituality, which profoundly shaped his thinking. Initially, he was the protege and heir apparent of Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis. Freud had revolutionized the world with his idea of the unconscious, a reservoir of repressed desires, primarily sexual in nature, that dictated our behavior. Jung was fascinated. He saw Freud as a mentor, and for a time, they were incredibly close. They collaborated intensely, each seeing in the other the future of psychology. But a rupture was inevitable. Jung felt Freud's vision was too limited. For him, reducing all neurosis and human behavior to sexual instinct was incomplete. Jung saw something more in the human psyche. He saw an innate need for meaning, for spiritual connection, something Freud, a declared atheist, dismissed. This break was devastating for Jung, but it was also his liberation. It led him into a period of deep introspection, a personal descent into hell. For years, he confronted his own unconscious, recording his dreams and visions in what would later become known as the Red Book. This was the crucible where his psychology was forged. What Jung sought was a complete map of the psyche. Not just the wounded or repressed parts of our childhood, but the totality of what it means to be human. His work isn't merely a therapy to heal the sick, it's a guide for the healthy person to reach their full potential, a psychology for wholeness. So what does this map look like according to Jung? It begins, like Freud's, with the I or ego, which is simply our conscious awareness. It's the center of our daily identity, what we think we are. But this, for Jung, is just the visible tip of an immense iceberg. Beneath the surface, the water runs deep and dark. Just below consciousness lies the personal unconscious. This is the concept closest to Freud's. It's our own private basement. It contains everything we've forgotten, repressed, or simply haven't noticed. These are our childhood memories, our personal traumas, and our unique experiences. In this personal unconscious live what Jung called complexes. A complex is a group of emotionally charged ideas or memories centered around a core theme. For example, someone might have a power complex or a mother complex. They aren't necessarily bad, but they are knots of psychic energy that influence our behavior. Up to this point, Jung and Freud might agree. But it's at the next level where Jung takes his most radical and fascinating leap. He proposed that beneath our personal unconscious, there exists a much deeper, far older, and universal layer. He called this the collective unconscious. Think about this. The collective unconscious isn't something you've personally experienced. It's something you've inherited. It's the reservoir of humanity's psychic experience accumulated over millions of years. It's the memory of our ancestors, not in details, but in patterns. It's the basic software that all humans share at birth. This was a revolutionary idea. Jung was saying that we aren't born as a blank slate or tabula rasa. We are born with a predisposition to experience the world in certain ways. We have an innate tendency to recognize a mother, to fear the dark, to seek a hero, to be fascinated by fire. What was Jung's evidence for something so extraordinary? Dreams, myths, and fairy tales. Jung, a voracious reader of world mythology and religion, noticed something astonishing. The same stories, the same symbols, and the same characters appeared repeatedly in cultures that had never had contact with each other. The hero who slays the dragon, the universal flood, the world tree, the Virgin Mother, the God who dies and resurrects. How was it possible that Egyptians, Greeks, Norse, and Aztecs had such similar core narratives? Jung's answer was the collective unconscious. They weren't copying each other. They were drinking from the same psychic wellspring. And not just in myths. Jung discovered these same universal symbols in the dreams and fantasies of his patients. Modern, educated people with no knowledge of ancient mythology produced images and narratives in their dreams that were identical to archaic myths. For Jung, this was proof that the collective unconscious was alive and active. So, the collective unconscious is like the operating system of the human psyche. It's universal. But what exactly does it contain? What are the files and programs running on the system? Jung called them archetypes. And this is where Jung's map becomes incredibly detailed. An archetype isn't a specific image or idea. It's an innate form or template. It's a predisposition to form certain images or ideas. Jung compared it to a bird's instinct to build a nest. The bird doesn't learn how to build the nest, it simply knows how to do it. The nest is an archetype in action. In the same way, we don't learn to recognize the idea of mother. We have an archetype of the great mother that is activated by our real mother. This archetype contains all the possibilities of motherhood, the nurturing mother, the life-giving mother, but also the devouring mother or the terrible mother. The archetype itself is invisible. It's an empty form. What we experience is the archetypal image. When a myth speaks of a wise old man, like Merlin, Dumbledore, or Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's the archetypal image. The underlying archetype is wisdom, guidance, higher consciousness. Archetypes are the inhabitants of our collective unconscious. They are autonomous energy centers. They hold power, they influence our emotions, our perceptions, and our decisions without us even realizing it. Jung identified countless archetypes: the hero, the trickster, the divine child, the father, but some are crucial for our development. Let's explore the 4 main archetypes that, according to Jung, we must confront to become whole. These are the persona, the shadow, the anima or animus, and the self. This is the core of the Jungian journey. The first step is recognizing our mask. The first archetype we encounter, or rather create, is the persona. This word comes from Latin and referred to the masks actors wore in Greek theater. For Jung, the persona is exactly that. It's the social mask we wear to adapt to the world. It's our role as a good student or a successful professional. The persona is necessary. We can't go through the world displaying every raw thought and emotion. It's the interface between our ego and the external world. The problem isn't having a persona, the problem is believing that we are our persona. It's confusing our mask with our true face. When someone identifies completely with their role, we say they are inflated by the persona, the politician who can't stop being a politician at home, the doctor who believes himself to be a god. They have forgotten who they are behind the mask. For Jung, the first step in growth is to withdraw the persona, to recognize that it's merely a disguise. Now, what happens to all the parts of us that don't fit that polished mask? All our impulses, fears, insecurities, selfishness, and unacceptable desires. Where do they go? We sweep them under the rug. We cast them into a dark psychic basement. Welcome to the second archetype, the shadow. The shadow is the other self. It's our dark twin. It contains everything we repress because it's incompatible with our persona. It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It's the part of us that shames us. Jung said that everyone projects a shadow, and the less conscious it is, the darker and denser it becomes. How do we recognize our shadow? It's easy. We see it in others. Those things that irrationally irritate us about other people, those moral judgments we make with such vehemence, are often projections of our own shadow. What we most hate in others is often what we cannot see in ourselves. The temptation is to deny or destroy the shadow, but for Jung, that's a catastrophic mistake. The shadow isn't just evil. It also contains immense vitality. It holds our repressed creativity, our assertiveness, our animal instincts. It's gold in the darkness. The goal isn't to eliminate it, it's to integrate it. To integrate the shadow means to acknowledge it. It means saying, yes, that anger, that envy, that laziness, that's also me. It's an act of radical humility and honesty. By doing so, we strip away its destructive power and gain access to its energy. We become more complete, more real, less hypocritical. It's a difficult and painful endeavor. All right, we've withdrawn the persona and begun to dialogue with our shadow. Now we dive even deeper. In the collective unconscious, we find figures that represent the other within us. Here, Jung introduces the anima and the animus. These are the gender archetypes. In simple terms, the anima is the archetypal image of the feminine that a man carries in his unconscious. It's his inner woman. It's not any particular woman, but a conglomeration of all his lineage's experiences with the feminine. It represents emotion, intuition, connection, creativity. Conversely, the animus is the archetypal image of the masculine that a woman carries in her unconscious. It's her inner man. It represents logic, reason, action, assertiveness, the logos. Again, it's a collective image, not a specific man. Why is this important? because like the shadow, we tend to project these archetypes. A man will project his anima onto a real woman. He will fall in love not with the woman herself, but with the image of his own soul that he sees in her. This leads to infatuation, but also to great disillusionment when the real woman doesn't match the projected goddess. The same happens with a woman and her animus. She might project it onto a man, seeking him as an authority figure, a hero, or a sage, only to be disappointed. Or, if her animus is negative, she might feel constantly criticized or dominated by an inner masculine voice. An unintegrated animus can make her rigid and argumentative. The work here is to withdraw the projection. It's about differentiating between the real person and the archetype we've overlaid onto them. It's about integrating those qualities within ourselves. A man must develop his own emotional connection, his anima, instead of seeking it only in women. A woman must develop her own logic and assertiveness, her animus. By integrating the anima or animus, the person becomes psychologically androgynous in the best sense. The man gains access to his intuition and sensitivity. The woman gains access to her power and reason. They become more whole, more creative, and capable of having more authentic relationships, seeing the other person for who they truly are. As we integrate these archetypes, we encounter others in the depths. There's the archetype of the wise old man or wise old woman, or senex. This is the figure that appears in our dreams as a guide, a mentor, a teacher. It represents humanity's accumulated wisdom. It's the archetype of meaning. There's also the hero archetype. This is the central narrative of so many cultures. The hero is the part of our ego that dares to venture into the unknown, the unconscious, fight the dragon, the shadow complexes, and rescue the princess, the anima, the soul. It's the archetype of transformation. Or the trickster, figures like Loki or Coyote. This archetype is ambiguous. It's an agent of chaos, it breaks the rules, it's a prankster, but its function is crucial. It challenges the ego, breaks the rigidity of the persona, and opens space for new possibilities. It's the creative chaos that precedes a new order. And then there's the central archetype, the most important of all, the archetype of wholeness and order. Jung called it the self, in German Selbst. This is the ultimate goal of the journey. If the ego is the center of consciousness, the self is the center of the total psyche, including both consciousness and the unconscious. The self is the organizing principle. It's the wholeness we were before birth and the wholeness we seek to achieve. It's the union of all opposites, conscious and unconscious, masculine and feminine, light and dark. It's the goal we spoke about at the beginning. It is the image of God within the human psyche. Archetypes aren't just intellectual concepts. They are experienced. They are felt. They have a numinous quality, a word Jung used to describe an experience that feels sacred, mysterious, and overwhelming. To encounter an archetype is to feel you're touching something divine, something far greater than your small ego. And this brings us to the central process of Jungian psychology. Now that we know the map, the psyche, and its inhabitants, the archetypes, we can understand the journey. This journey is called the process of individuation. It is the most important idea and the goal of life, according to Jung. Individuation is the lifelong process of becoming what one truly is. It's the journey of becoming oneself. It's important to clarify, this is not individualism in the selfish sense of me first. It's the opposite. It's about becoming indivisible, meaning complete, whole, undivided. Jung believed that the goal of life isn't to be happy, nor to be perfect, nor even to be good. The goal is to be whole. And being whole means integrating all parts of yourself, especially those you've rejected. It's a process of unifying the opposites that dwell within you. The process of individuation often begins in the second half of life. The first half of life, according to Jung, is dedicated to building our ego and our persona. We go to school, get a job, start a family. We adapt to the outer world. But then, often in a midlife crisis, this ceases to be enough. We feel an emptiness, a lack of meaning. It's the call of the self. It's the soul saying, okay, you've built your life in the world. Now it's time to build your inner life. It's the beginning of the journey back home to wholeness. And the first step is painful. It's the confrontation with the shadow. One must stop blaming others for their problems and begin to look inward. It requires brutal honesty to recognize one's own flaws, one's own darkness. This is the work of integrating the shadow. It's the moment when the hero descends into the underworld to fight the dragon, which is himself. After confronting the shadow, the next great encounter is with the anima or animus. The traveler must differentiate their soul from their projections. They must stop seeking the perfect woman or the perfect man outside, and instead cultivate that relationship with their inner counterpart. This is a process of inner dialogue. Jung called it active imagination. It's about talking with the figures in your dreams and fantasies as if they were real. It's asking your shadow what it wants. It's asking your anima what it feels. It's taking your inner world seriously. As these archetypes integrate, the personality's center of gravity begins to shift. The ego, which used to run the show, realizes it's not the king. It's more like a prime minister or a chief of staff. The true king, the center, is the self. Individuation doesn't mean you become perfect. It doesn't mean you stop having a shadow or a persona. It means you are aware of them. It means you stop being a puppet to your complexes and archetypes and begin to have a conscious relationship with them. You are the conductor of your own inner orchestra. The result is a person who is authentic. Someone who isn't inflated by their persona, nor possessed by their shadow. Someone who is capable of mature relationships because they've withdrawn their projections. Someone who has found a sense of meaning that comes from within, not from external approval. For Jung, this isn't just a personal journey. It's a moral imperative. He believed that the great evils of the 20th century, like fascism and the world wars, occurred because masses of individuals hadn't done their inner work. They projected their collective shadow onto an enemy, Jews, communists, etc., and destroyed it there. The only cure for the madness of the masses, Jung said, is for individuals to have the courage to look inward. The work of integrating one's own shadow is the antidote to collective evil. Individuation isn't a selfish luxury, it's a social and ethical responsibility. Now, it's crucial to understand that Jung didn't see himself as a mystic, but as an empirical scientist, a scientist of the psyche. He said, "I don't believe I know." He based his theories not on faith, but on decades of clinical evidence, on the analysis of thousands of dreams, and on his profound study of world mythology. He saw alchemy, for example, not as a foolish attempt to make gold, but as a psychological manual. The prima materia, raw material, was the undeveloped psyche. The lapis, or philosopher's stone, was the symbol of the self, the wholeness achieved after a long and difficult process of transformation. Similarly, he saw religions as incredibly sophisticated psychological systems. They were the containers that cultures had created to deal with the overwhelming power of the archetypes. Ritual, myth, dogma, they were ways to safely channel the energy of the collective unconscious. Jung worried about modern humanity. He felt that by losing religion and myth in the age of science, we had lost our container. We had become disconnected from the collective unconscious. This left us neurotic, alienated, and desperately searching for meaning. The soul was starving. His psychology, analytical psychology, was his attempt to create a bridge for modern humanity to reconnect with its soul, with the depths, not through blind faith, but through direct personal experience, through dream analysis, active imagination, and the work of individuation. What is Jung's legacy today? It's immense, though often invisible. His impact on psychology was profound. The ideas of introversion and extroversion, so common today, come from Jung. He was the first psychologist to classify psychological types: thinking, feeling, sensation, intuition. The popular Myers-Briggs personality indicator, used in corporations and personal development worldwide, is a direct application of Jung's theory of types. Although many academic psychologists criticize it for its rigidity, its popularity shows how much Jung's idea that we have different ways of perceiving the world resonates. His impact on culture is even greater. The mythologist Joseph Campbell, whose work The Hero with a Thousand Faces changed the way we understand stories, was a direct student of Jung's ideas. Campbell took Jung's hero archetype and turned it into the monomyth, or the hero's journey. George Lucas explicitly used Campbell's work, and thus Jung's, to write Star Wars. Luke Skywalker is the hero. Darth Vader is the shadow, literally the dark father. Obi-Wan is the wise old man. Leia is the anima. It's a Jungian story from beginning to end, and that's why it resonates so deeply with us. Almost all great success stories, from Harry Potter to The Lord of the Rings or The Matrix, follow this archetypal pattern. Jung's archetypes aren't just psychology, they are the fundamental structure of human narrative. They are why stories move us. We see our own journey reflected in them. The self-help movement and New Age spirituality have also drawn deeply from Jung, sometimes simplifying his ideas. Concepts like finding your inner self, connecting with your shadow, or the power of symbols are direct echoes of Jungian thought, filtered for a mass audience. Even in therapy, his influence endures. Although strict Freudian psychoanalysis has lost popularity, Jungian therapy, or depth psychology, is still practiced. It focuses on dream analysis, working with symbols, and the long-term goal of individuation, rather than merely symptom removal. Of course, Jung is not without his critics. For modern academic psychology, especially behaviorist or cognitive approaches, Jung is too mystical. They see him more as a philosopher or a guru than as a scientist. His theories are difficult to prove or falsify with traditional scientific methods. Is the collective unconscious a literal reality or a poetic metaphor? Are archetypes innate brain structures or simply learned cultural patterns? Brain science has yet to find a location for the anima. For skeptics, Jung strayed too far from science and got lost in occultism. He has also been criticized for his alleged Nazi sympathies in the 1930s. This is a dark and complex point in his biography. Although he later recanted and helped the Allies, his writings from that period about the Aryan psyche and Jewish psyche are deeply problematic and a stain on his legacy. Furthermore, some feminists have criticized his concepts of anima and animus as essentialist and outdated. They argue that these reinforce gender stereotypes, suggesting women are inherently emotional, eros, and men logical, logos. It's a valid criticism that modern Jungians have attempted to reinterpret. Despite these legitimate criticisms, Jung's thought endures. Why? Because it speaks directly to a human experience that positivist science often ignores, the experience of meaning, of symbol, of mystery, the feeling that we are part of something greater. We live in a world that tells us we are our brains, our chemistries, our jobs, a world of data and algorithms. Jung offers us a counterweight. He offers us a language to speak of the soul. He gives us permission to take our dreams seriously. He tells us that our neuroses can be the seed of our greatest growth. Carl Jung's legacy isn't a set of easy answers. It's a map into the depths of ourselves. It invites us to look beyond the surface of our persona, to honor our dreams, to have the courage to confront our shadow, and to embark on the brave and difficult journey of individuation. He reminds us that we are not just isolated individuals, but carriers of the collective wisdom of all humanity, and that the greatest journey we can embark on isn't into outer space, but into the universe we carry within. As he himself said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." It's been a dense but hopefully fascinating journey. Thank you truly for joining me on this deep exploration. Understanding these ideas is the first step to applying them. Thank you for your time and curiosity. If this journey through the map of the soul has brought you value, please consider subscribing so you don't miss future analyses. I'd love to read in the comments which archetype resonates most with you. The shadow, the anima, the hero? See you in the next exploration. To delve deeper, it's helpful to contrast the shadow with the Freudian personal unconscious. For Freud, the unconscious was primarily a reservoir of repressed material, almost all negative or socially unacceptable. It was a problem to be managed. For Jung, the shadow is that, but it's also a source of power and renewal. It's not just bad. This distinction is key. Integrating the shadow isn't just an act of moral cleansing, it's an act of energy retrieval. An artist might find their wildest creativity in the shadow. A leader might find their assertiveness. Denying it not only makes you hypocritical, it makes you weak, because you give up a part of your psychic power. Let's also consider the anima and animus in the modern world. As gender roles become more fluid, these ideas might seem outdated. However, a modern Jungian would argue that archetypes are not about social roles, but about psychic energies. Logos, reason, structure, and eros, connection, relationship. Regardless of biological gender or gender identity, every psyche needs a healthy balance between the capacity to structure, animus logos, and the capacity to relate, anima eros. Individuation requires all of us to cultivate both energies, rather than projecting or repressing them based on social stereotypes. Another fascinating archetype is the puer aeternus, or the eternal child. It's the archetype of the eternal adolescent. Think of Peter Pan. He's charming, creative, full of possibilities, but refuses to grow up. He refuses to commit, to put down roots, to face reality. It's a common trap in modern culture. The opposite is the senex, or the old man. It's the archetype of rigidity, order, tradition, but also stagnation and cynicism. The poor fears the senex, and the senex despises the poor. Individuation requires a balance, the creativity of the child combined with the responsibility of the adult. The self, as a goal, often manifests in dreams through symbols of wholeness. The most common is the mandala, the Sanskrit word for circle. Jung noticed that his patients, in moments of great transformation, spontaneously drew circular or square figures. It was the psyche attempting to create order and wholeness. Other symbols of the self include the philosopher's stone, the celestial city, the mystic marriage, the union of the king and queen, or animus and anima. When these symbols appear, it's a sign that the process of individuation is active, guiding the person toward integration. In conclusion, Jung's map is complex, but its message is singular. We are more than we think. We carry within us the history of the world and the potential for wholeness. The journey is inward, the work is integration, and the reward is an authentic and meaningful life. Thank you again for your deep attention. If this type of analysis is what you're looking for, subscribing is the best way to support the channel. Leave your comment about which of Jung's ideas impacted you the most. Is the self a realistic goal? Until next time.